Something that really excites me when it comes to the future of Zebec is that Zebec is part of the Circle Alliance. And before I get into that, I first want to talk about when I was making my last video. When it comes to ZBCN, I just want to talk about this very briefly. The price wasn't doing the good. Now it's had a pretty good pump. Not too much in the grand scheme of things because it has had a pretty big pullback, but I'm still believing in the future. 10 cents still wouldn't surprise me whatsoever, let's say hypothetically, if it were to happen during this bull run. But even besides that, why is Zebec being part of the Circle Alliance so amazing? It's because if we take a look at Circle, it's the creator of USDC, the stablecoin, and recently Circle did become publicly listed. So that really gave Circle a lot of validation. And we got to think about this, right? When it comes to other projects out there, sure, some people can say it's good and all this type of stuff. And granted, some of them without, any of these, big name backers, they have gone on to do very well. But then, in my opinion, take a look at something like Zebec. Allegedly, one of its early backers is Circle. We gotta think about how Zebec for quite a while wasn't doing that good, didn't really have much popularity. Even back then, when ZBCN had a very slight pump and then it had a pullback, everyone didn't believe in it. They were like, okay, having, allegedly something like Solana Ventures or like Circle being one of their backers, who cares? Doesn't really matter because they think that the project really can't live up to its like, kind of reputation. But then I think that really now that Circle again became publicly listed, not to mention Circle, we take a look at USDC, man, it's pretty much many people's number 2 go-to stablecoin. So I think that really does give Zebec a lot of validation. And as Circle, let's say, gains more attention, as the markets, let's say, do better. And I think if they pay attention to something like Circle and see that, what are the projects that they're believing in? Allegedly, something like Zebec is one of them. That could mean something. That could also give Zebec a little bit of credibility, in my opinion, because it doesn't necessarily mean that Zebec is as good as Circle because, how can I compare the two? But then at the same time, if Circle is willing to attach itself to a project in a indirect sense, I would assume, because it is backing it, like, or should I say one of the early backers, I think they have to kind of at least believe in the project, right? Because when these large entities, when they believe in something, they're not just doing it out on a whim. I feel like there's a team. I feel like they do their due diligence. And the fact that Zebec was quite essentially able to do that very early on back then, that's a testament as to how amazing their fundamentals are. Because if the fundamentals weren't good, I think that wouldn't hypothetically be a possibility. And we also have to take a look at how Circle allegedly holds a lot of ZBCN. And this is actually according to a post on X by Zebec, right? But even besides that, when I see something like that, I like that, just kind of the visuals of it, because I feel that Circle didn't even have to believe in Zebec anyways. Like, let's say, for whatever reason, Circle never believed in Zebec and never backed it, quite essentially, in the beginning, right? Would anyone really care? No. Like, no one's gonna care about that, right? No one's gonna stop using USDC just because Circle didn't believe in Zebec. Like, no one's caring about that type of stuff, but they did it anyways. So I kind of like that. Again, Circle doesn't need Zebec, you know what I mean? But then the fact that they believed in it, I think it maybe showcased that, maybe they could hypothetically see something here, even though there's no guarantees, because who knows how Zebec is going to do in the long term. When I take a look at also Solana Ventures allegedly being one of the backers when it comes to Zebec, I like that, visual as well. I think it's good optics because, again, something as massive as Solana Ventures, something like Circle, they didn't have to do this. If it didn't, it's not like it would bother me or something like that. But then I just still like, kind of this thing that's going on when it comes to Zebec. Not to mention, why do I think that as Solana gains more attention, Zebec could hypothetically as well? Take a look at not too long ago. ZBCN was top 10 in terms of utility when it comes to Solana. That is a big, thing in my opinion. And I think that a lot of these, projects beyond like Bitcoin and Ethereum, we're kind of seeing these proposals for ETFs and whatnot. And, when it comes to what, let's say, ETFs could bring for these other projects, hypothetically, I think it could maybe be good because it gives it maybe more validation and more, kind of just attention overall. So when I take a look at, let's say, Solana, right? I do like its hypothetical potential for stuff like that because, for instance, we take a look at the Solana ETF in Canada and what that could hypothetically bring for the future of these, Solana-based projects and also Solana in general. I think, especially moving forward, it could hypothetically be a positive, right? So when I take a look at something like Zebec, this is something that I like. I like its close ties to Solana, even Solana Ventures, allegedly one of the early backers, so that kind of, makes it amazing, hypothetically, at least in terms of the visuals, not to mention Circle. this is what really excites me when it comes to Zebec. On top of it having good fundamentals, like for instance, it's focused on AI-based PayFi. That's a kind of a big thing as of right now. Take a look at, for instance, another project that I'm bullish on called Velo. Velo, as of late, it's kind of like showcasing why it's, being focused on AI meets PayFi. So then maybe did Zebec kind of start a trend? Probably not, right? I don't know if Velo even kind of paid attention to this, but at least we kind of see some of these projects out there kind of shifting towards that kind of, market focus, I would assume. Not to mention, Zebec, focus on global trade and finance, much like Ripple and Stellar. Not to mention, Zebec, focus on payrolls, focus on RWAs. RWAs are kind of a big narrative, actually, currently, at least from my perspective. Take a look at Ondo, very massive project, way bigger than ZBCN as of right now. I like maybe the future of Ondo, but again, that's a pretty massive project that's kind of proven that, what? Being focused on RWAs, it's worked for them so far. The market isn't doing the best, granted, despite the slight recovery, but when it comes to the world of altcoins, Ondo is pretty massive. So I like the sectors that Zebec is focused on. I feel like all the pieces are in place. All it needs to do right now is really just wait for a fully fledged type of hypothetical altcoin season. Really, that's about it. Because we saw how well ZBCN did not too long ago, of course, before the pullback, and I asked myself this question when I take a look at that. What bullish factors were going on when it comes to ZBCN and also just the whole altcoin space back then? Nothing really, right? Like, think about this. What big thing was Zebec doing back then? Kind of nothing. What action was really going on when it comes to altcoins beyond ZBCN? Not really that much. And it kind of did that just kind of out of nowhere, it felt like. When I was believing in XCN and ZBCN in the beginning, I thought maybe they would kind of do pretty good at the same time, but really, take a look at XCN, pumped way earlier, way before ZBCN. At that time, ZBCN wasn't really doing much. So then I think that kind of showcases that, what? At a time where, some of its competitors were doing pretty good, ZBCN wasn't kind of doing anything. And then suddenly, wow, it just kind of went up like that. Now, of course, there's a pullback, but I'm just saying, it kind of happened without a major catalyst, really. I mean, what good news came out of ZBCN back then, and it still did that? What would it do if, let's say, there was a fully fledged type of hypothetical altcoin season? Only time will tell. That's why I'm staying patient. I'm not telling anyone to buy ZBCN, by the way, but then I'm just kind of staying consistent still with the project. I mean, think about this, right? Some people that I know out there, they pretty much was like, yeah, we're done with ZBCN not too long ago. Now ZBCN, kind of like a 12, 13% recovery a little bit. Now a lot of these people are saying, oh, maybe ZBCN is this and that. I am not affected by that type of stuff because I am staying consistent. When I believe in something, I just like to stay at it and just treat it more like a marathon. It's not a sprint for me. It's like, for instance, if I'm running a marathon, what happens along the journey, it is what it is. All I care about is kind of like finishing that journey, if that makes sense, just kind of completing that marathon and being like, what? At least I stayed consistent and went at a pace that I felt comfortable with. It's literally so simple for me. I just believe in a project and I just believe in it and that's it. Dollar cost average, hold, and I just wait. There's really nothing too overly complicated. That's about it. But 10 cents wouldn't surprise me if, let's say, hypothetically it did happen, because if, let's say, again, the markets do really pick up, are we saying that around an $8.5 billion market cap, which would actually have in theory, considering current circulating supply at the price of 10 cents, would that be too much to ask for? I just kind of feel like maybe not, because even XRP currently has a market cap that is well beyond $100 billion. I mean, I'm not saying this can come close to XRP, but then achieving like a slight glimpse of that, not even 10% of what it is, kind of like even right now, without the markets being the best when it comes to altcoins, it doesn't seem that ridiculous to me. And feel free to subscribe if you enjoyed the video. I'd greatly appreciate it. It's only the captain, and I'll catch you all in the next one. I'm out. Peace. Bye.